Skyscrapers are everywhere. New York, London, Hong Kong, Dubai, Kuala Lumpur, Melbourne, you name it. There's probably a skyscraper there. But how did we get from this to this? How are skyscrapers made possible? What engineering marvels allowed these giant structures to exist? And most importantly, can you survive a falling off one? Well, today we're going to answer that last question. But first, let's talk about the evolution of skyscrapers because they haven't always looked like this. In fact, before the 19th century, buildings were pretty much limited to 4 or 5 stories. The reason being is that the construction methods available just weren't advanced enough to support larger structures. For example, the Great Fire of London in 1666 destroyed much of the city. And in the rebuilding efforts, architects were wary of building large structures, since the fire spread so easily between them. However, with the advent of new technologies such as steel frames and elevator, buildings could finally start growing upwards. The first skyscraper was widely considered to be the home insurance building in Chicago. Built in 80, it was only 10 stories. But it was the first building of its kind with a steel skeleton that allowed for large open spaces and floor-to-ceiling windows. It ushered in a new era of architecture, and we started to see buildings get taller and taller. By the early 20th century, we had the Chrysler and Empire State Building, the Woolworth Building, and the Eiffel Tower. And these buildings didn't just push the boundaries of engineering technology, they became cultural-like. These days we're adding over 500 skyscrapers to cities around the world every single year. Now when you look at these modern skyscrapers, they all seem to follow a similar design. A large, blocky structure with sharp edges and corners. Well, it turns out that might not be the case for much longer, because recently architects have been exploring new techniques which could change the very definition of what a skyscraper is. One such technique is the use of cross-bracing. This method involves using diagonal supports to transfer the wind loads and seismic forces to the core of the building instead of relying solely on the columns. This allows for more flexible floor plans and could potentially allow for buildings with unique shapes such as curves and irregular forms. Another technique being explored is the use of composite materials such as carbon fiber reinforced polymers. These materials are incredibly strong and lightweight, which could allow for the construction of taller, more slender buildings. Okay, now that we know how skyscrapers are made and how they've evolved over time, it's time to answer the most important question of all. Can you survive falling off one? Well, the answer might surprise you. Falling off a skyscraper isn't actually as dangerous as you might think, thanks to some simple physics. When you're up high, it doesn't matter how fast you're going sideways. Eventually, gravity will catch up with you and bring you back down to... In fact, if you fell from the top of the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, you wouldn't even have time to scream before you hit the ground. Of course, that doesn't mean you'll be okay after the impact, but it does mean that your chances of survival are actually pretty good. In fact, there have been several cases of people falling off skyscrapers and surviving. One of the most famous cases was in 2015 when a man called Denny Chamberlain fell 233 feet from a window cleaning platform in New York City. He was working on the 14th floor of a building when the platform suddenly dropped, sending him plummeting to the ground. Miraculously, he survived the fall and was only seriously injured. Another case happened in 2007, when a worker fell 750 feet from a crane in Dubai. Again, miraculously, he survived the fall and only suffered minor injuries. So yes, it is possible to survive falling off a skyscraper. But there are a few factors that can increase your chances of survival. For example, if you were to fall, it is much better to take the plunge feet first, so that your body acts like a parachute and slows your descent. Also, if you try to tense all your muscles and protect your head and make a small space for air, it can potentially protect your organs and prevent them from rupturing. Finally, if you land on something soft like grass or sand, it's going to cushion your fall and prevent serious injury. So there you have it. Skyscrapers are incredible feats of engineering that have allowed us to reach new heights quite literally. And while it is possible to survive falling off one, please don't try it at home. Thanks for watching.